Hey everyone, happy Monday. For many of you, it's a motivational Monday. For us, it's more of a mindful Monday here on the Other Side podcast. My name is Janelle Villiers. I'm your host. And for those of you who are multiple time comers to the Other Side podcast, you know that I am all about what it's like on this journey on the other side of mental health. So, I love focusing on different topics each time that we're together and then learning and growing from each of those topics. You guys have been sending some really good ones. So if you have something that you want me to talk about, please, please, please let me know. Just put it in the comment section and I check all the comments. And it would be a pleasure to talk about anything that's really on your mind because we're all going through this together, right? None of us are alone. So I'm really excited because today we have a really great topic. I think it's timely considering where we are in December. Today's topic is how to stop self-sabotaging your New Year's resolutions. Yeah, this is a great question. Also, if this is your first time with us, please go ahead and put a 1 in the chats. That way I can shout out all the first timers. Hello, welcome. If you have been on here before, if you are a part of the Other Side podcast family, go ahead and put a 2 in the comments. That way I can shout you out as someone who's been here in the past. Love to see everyone return. And if you really love what you hear, please, it is for free. You can simply subscribe. That actually does way more than you think it does because it tells YouTube that what we're talking about here is actually important and we'll share it with other people. Of course, click the notification bell so that way you don't miss any episodes. But the subscription is really, really a big deal for me. So please, from the bottom of my heart, I ask that you go ahead and click subscribe before we begin. So that being said, let's go ahead and get into some of these points that I wanted to bring to you guys. So in terms of some of the hidden psychological tricks that keep us stuck. Number one is the comfort zone trap. I think that a lot of us don't even realize when we're in our comfort zone, but the thing is that our brains are actually wired to keep us safe. So safe feels like our comfort zone. It can restrict us from trying to do anything new because new seems scary. It's the unknown. There's a risk of failure, right? There's just risk in general anytime there's anything new or change. And so your brain is literally trying to keep you safe and will keep you from doing the things that seem new, even though you can logically say to yourself, well, no, I need to do the new thing because it's going to help me, right? So it's the comfort zone trap, really. Then the next thing is really important to recognize is the negative self-talk and how so many of us are programmed by this negative self-talk that we have. And this is the negative, you've heard me talk about this before, but this is the self inside your brain that nobody else can hear that's telling you you're not good enough, you're unworthy, you're a failure. How could you possibly think that you could do this thing? Like, who do you think you are? All of that. That's the negative self-talk. And if this is what you're believing, this is what's going to help your brain stay in its comfort zone because literally it's going to beat you to death to make you believe that you shouldn't even be trying to do this new thing. You shouldn't be trying to commit to something. Why? Because you're a failure, right? Because you're not good enough for this new thing that you want to start in your life, whatever that New Year's resolution is. And then again, if you've been with me before, you know that this negative self-talk, I actually call it shame-based thinking. There are tons of episodes where I talk about sabotage in general and shame-based thinking, but remember that it usually comes from some place in our childhood. It's a message that we heard in our childhood that never got addressed, and so we continue to have the same belief about ourselves as adults that creates this negative self-talk. So it's really important to understand that when you're constantly having that negative self-talk, when it's on repeat, that literally creates a neural connection in your brain. And so it is living in your brain, a connection that is formed and is a belief, essentially. That's how it feels like, is this belief that you have, but it's actually also a neuronal connection, and it's like a real thing that happens. So it's really important to address a lot of those things in order to help us actually achieve those New Year's resolutions. And then finally, the identity-based limitation. So your perception of yourself needs to change. So it's a lot of that like negative self-talk, the shame-based thinking that we were talking about earlier. You have to address it, and you have to start to identify yourself as someone who can achieve whatever your New Year's resolution is, someone who does deserve whatever the positive outcome of your New Year's resolution is. So this is huge. You have to address the shame-based thinking. You have to address the negative self-talk by changing how you identify yourself, changing how you see yourself. It's really important. Okay, so now let's talk about willpower. And willpower alone is just not going to do it. In fact, it hardly ever is the thing that does it. So the neuroscience behind motivation is that willpower is a very finite mental resource. You really don't have a lot of it. And so it comes in spurts, and you're like, yep, I got the willpower to, maybe it's exercise, maybe it's eat a salad instead of the donut, whatever. You have it for a moment, and then life's, you have a ton of stressors, you have a ton of decisions that you need to make throughout the day. And these are stressors that now make that willpower like a lot smaller. In fact, you probably have none by the end of the day. So if you're going to do any good things, if you're going to make any good decisions, you should probably make the most important decisions that you need to make in the very beginning of the day when it's your willpower, it's at its peak. And the other side to this is sometimes people say, oh, okay, well, then you just need discipline. But also remember that discipline can also just really lead to burnout, because you just go. And so you do need some sort of positive reinforcement to ultimately make it sustainable. And so we're going to get there. But motivation, it's finite. It doesn't last forever. And I have a friend that says motivation is like lotion. You need to reapply, right? A lot. So the other thing that's really important is that your environment actually trumps your motivation. And so what I mean by that is that your surroundings can actually dictate your behavior. One of the things I think is really interesting is we use it. Okay, so let's say one of your New Year's resolutions is to actually exercise more. Maybe it's like weight management or something like that. And so there have been so many studies that show if you create an environment that helps you, so it's less friction to go do the thing that might be hard to do the new thing in your life, exercise, get up and do something. So go ahead and I'm looking this way because my bedroom is over here. But if you go in your bedroom, maybe set up your gym clothes right next to your bed, so you don't have to like look for your gym clothes. You just put them on. I know some people who actually sleep in their gym clothes at night, so that way when they get up out of bed, they just go to the gym. Again, it's just less friction between the thing that you want to do and like the idea or the willpower necessary to do it. For me, what I do, I don't sleep in my gym clothes. My gym clothes are not right next to the bed. However, my mats and my weights are. It is where I exercise. I exercise in my bedroom. And so in the morning, after I do my gratitude and I do all the things, my prayer, my gratitude, I have some other things that I do, but after I do all of that, and then I go and exercise, when I am ready to exercise, I go put on my exercise clothes, and the mat is right there. I don't even have to go to the gym. I don't have to physically go anywhere. I've got my mat, I've got my weights, everything's right there. And so the friction between doing it and not doing it is much less. So your environment really is a big deal, actually. Another thing, for those of you that do a lot of hybrid work, if you work from home, you probably recognize this. It's great working from home because you just have access to all the things that are convenient to you. Awesome, right? However, sometimes being at home can also be the distraction. I mean, your bedroom is only this far away. I mean, the TV in your living room is only this far away, right? So sometimes it's great to get out of that environment and put yourself somewhere else. One of my favorite things to do, I'm in New York. If you are the first time here and you don't know this, I love to go into Times Square. I know I said it, a New Yorker going to Times Square, it's like sacrilegious, but Times Square has the Marriott Marquis. And what most people don't know, so if you ever come to New York City, here's the tourist hack for you. What you can go, even if you're not staying at the Marriott Marquis, you can actually go inside the Marriott Marquis and you can go up to, I believe it's either the 8th or the 9th floor where they have their lobby. You can really go into any hotel lobby and do the same thing, what I'm about to tell you. It's just that the Marriott Marquis is one of the biggest, if not the biggest hotel in Manhattan. It's like right in the heart of Manhattan in Times Square. And they have one of the coolest lobbies. You get free Wi-Fi and I'm able to do all the things that I need to do without the distraction of home, but having like a really cool, trendy environment near me. And so when I need a break, I can, look up, I can people watch, I can, go do the things that I need to do, whatever, but it just creates a different environment. Another place that I like to go, I know these are like all the New York tricks. I love going to Grand Central Station and going to the Apple Store. I actually recorded a couple of episodes of the Other Side podcast there. I love going to the Apple Store. They have chargers for your phone. There's daylight coming through, the natural daylight. It is Grand Central Station, so it is just beautiful. So you have, again, really cool surroundings. I feel like I'm outside of my home. I can really focus and get done the things I need to get done. So your environment really does, it like supersedes the motivation. So change your environment is really helpful. And lastly, the dopamine depletion cycle. So dopamine is one of those neurotransmitters or the chemicals in your brain that makes you feel like, ooh, this is good, right? And so when you are trying to use your willpower, like, I'm going to do this thing, it's hard, it's new, I'm going to like break through and do this thing, it actually depletes the dopamine. It depletes the like feel good chemicals in your brain. So then if you're not feeling good while you're doing it, then eventually, of course, you're not going to do it because, again, willpower is fleeting. And now you don't even have the chemicals in your brain to support you to continue to do it that make you feel good. So you definitely want to make sustainable changes that require pleasure. You want to feel like you're having fun, like this is something that you desire, that's something that makes you smile. It should not always feel like punishment. It really, really shouldn't. One of the things that I do, okay, so working out with weights is not the most fun thing to do. I know I need to do it and it's working for all the right reasons. However, it's just not fun for me. So what I do is I alternate. Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, I lift weights. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, I do belly dancing or salsa dancing. So it's something that's fun. I look forward to it. And yeah, I'm going to keep doing it because it's a lot of fun. And guess what? It's movement, it's exercise. I get some of the craziest ab workouts with these belly dancing routines. Let me just tell you. So shout out to Belly Fit by Layla. She's the one that I follow for those. Please go ahead and follow her for that. They are amazing little routines that she has, really, really work you out. Okay, so now let's talk about exactly how to rewire your brain for success. First of all, if you're on here and you're listening and you're finding this really valuable, please let me know in the comments. Hi, Akeko, I'm so glad you're here. Akeko was our guest 2 Mondays ago. If you missed that, please go watch that episode. Okay, great. So hi, Ona. Hi, Moana. Oh. So those are the folks on Instagram. And so we're back. Okay, so now let's talk about what are some ways that we can rewire the brain for success. So the brain literally changes when you are making new decisions and doing new things. That's why, I don't know if you've ever seen that, like, I don't know, I feel like it's like a sign when you go on vacation and it's like, when was the first time you did something? When was the last time you did something for the first time? When was the last time you did something for the first time? Now, that question brings me a lot of excitement. I'm like, woo, yeah, when was the last time I did something for the first time, right? I love doing things for the first time. Think about it. The first time you kissed someone, the first time you went on a date, the first time you got a job, the first time you went to class in college. Like, there's so many first times, and usually they involve a lot of excitement. And so every single time you do something new, it literally rewires your brain. There's a physical change that happens. And so when you're trying to rewire your brain, this is why you need to keep doing it repetitively, the new thing. So it takes 21 days to break a habit. If you're trying to break a bad habit, like me, I pick up my cuticles, right? So it takes 21 days to break a bad habit or to start a new one. But if you want to really commit it to your lifestyle, you need 90 days. You definitely need 90 days. So that's just something to consider. And it's because it's the rewiring of your brain. Also, number 2, you want to regulate your emotions. So you want to use mindful techniques, because when you're doing something new, you can get really excited or you can get really, really freaked out. Right? And so you really need to monitor your emotions and recognize that, like, too high or too low could end up taking you in the wrong direction, right? So just acknowledge where you are on that, like, spectrum of highs and lows, and recognize that anything that's bad doesn't last forever, and the same thing with anything that's good, it doesn't last forever either. So just enjoy the moments that are good and just recognize the moments that are bad. They're sucky, but you'll get through them, right? And so just being mindful of your emotions during that, during the time when you're doing things that are new. Okay. Habit stacking. So one of the really things that's really cool is that when you make things a habit, like brushing your teeth, it's a habit, like putting on underwear, it's a habit, right? And so anything that becomes a habit, it's like, it feels weird when you don't do the thing, right? So for me now, exercising has become a habit in the morning. So when I don't do it, it does feel weird. And so, but that takes time. And so you want to make these little habits, these little things that you can do that stack over time, because again, you're working on changing the physical structure of your brain. It's really important. Okay, now let's talk about oh, good. I'm glad you like the stacking, Vincent. All right. So the final thing that I wanted to cover are, what are some practical steps that you can use to achieve your goals for your New Year's resolutions? Number one, micro goals. I've talked about micro goals so often on this podcast. Obviously anyone who's been here before knows that I really, really believe in them. Micro goals are the little goals. Sometimes the really big goal can seem hairy and audacious and scary. But what if you could do something really small? Like, instead of, I'm going to read this 500-page book, what if you just committed to reading 10 pages every day? So your micro goal now became, oh, I'm just going to read 10 pages. That seems so much more doable than, oh, I'm going to read this 500-page book. It's the same thing, I believe, with, let's say weight loss is on your New Year's resolution. I'm going to lose 30 pounds. That could seem really scary and audacious. And it's like, oh my God, how am I going to do that? Instead of, I'm going to lose 30 pounds, what if you said, every single day, I'm going to exercise for 30 minutes. I'm going to move. I'm going to commit to movement for 30 minutes a day for at least 5 days a week, right? So it becomes, I'm going to lose 30 pounds to, what is something that I can actually do every single day? That's your micro goal. So taking the big goal and breaking them down into smaller, doable sizes, things that you can actually achieve. The second thing that I would say is, you definitely want to get an accountability partner. Sometimes you might hear them called an accountability. So an accountability partner, an ecosystem, something that's designed to make failure difficult. Essentially, when you feel like not doing the thing, you know you're accountable to somebody or something. And so it makes you want to do the thing that you said that you were going to do in the first place. So this is really meaningful, being able to do this. It just keeps us on track. I think people are the best accountability people. However, I do know people who've used apps and things like that in order to also keep themselves accountable. Whatever works for you. I still think the human connection, though, is the best out of all of them. That's just me. And then tracking your progress is really important. This helps with the psychological reinforcement that you're doing within your brain. So if you develop a tracking system, then you can celebrate your progress. So whether that's measuring inches in your clothes and how your clothes fit, right? Whether it's, oh my goodness, guess what? I'm now 30 pages in or 100 pages in, and I'm just doing 10 pages a day. For those of you who are writing a book, you know that I have said multiple times, don't think of, oh, I'm going to write for like 10 hours. No, don't do that. Just write for 15 to 20 minutes, even 30 minutes. If you committed to writing for 30 minutes a day, and you did that for 30 days, that's 900 minutes and 15 hours that you have now written for. But you did it in small little increments, right? 30 minutes a day. And then you track that. Let's say you tracked it on your calendar. right? Something like that. And then your brain is like, oh, look at me. I'm doing it. It's working. And that's positive reinforcement. That's the dopamine that you're looking for to get you to be like, oh, there's joy in this. There's like pleasure in this. And it gets you to doing it again and again and again. So those are some practical tips that you can use to help you with your New Year's resolutions. So let's just recap. First, we talked about some hidden psychological tricks that are keeping you stuck, essentially. And number one is the comfort zone trap. Definitely want to make sure that you get out of there, or at least recognize that you're there. Number two, the negative self-talk, that shame-based thinking talk could be keeping you there. And then number three is recognizing this identity-based limitation that is happening and the fact that you need to change how you see yourself and how you identify yourself in order to move forward with those changes and the resolutions that you're trying to make. All right, for the why willpower is never going to work on its own. Number one is that the neuroscience of motivation has proven that willpower is finite. Doesn't last forever. Number two, environment is going to trump everything else, especially when we're talking about motivation. Changing your environment helps to change what's going on in your brain as well, to help make you successful in actually taking on the action that you need to in order to achieve your New Year's resolutions. And number three, the dopamine depletion. So remember, the good the good neurotransmitters actually get depleted. It's not fun. When you use willpower, the more willpower you use, the lower your dopamine levels go. And that is not what you want. So you want to make sure that you also engage in something that is fun, something that makes you want to do the New Year's resolution again, or want to do an activity that leads to the New Year's resolution again. Okay, so how do you rewire your brain for success? Number one, the neuroplasticity techniques that I talked about. So remember, there's physical change happening. And so you need to constantly do the action to make it a habit, right? In order for the newness to stick, to make it a new neural pathway. Remember that you're going to experience emotions. And so even the emotion of, I don't want to do it right now, and doing it anyway. Your emotions shouldn't necessarily dictate whether you do or you do not do something. If you made a decision that this is what you want to do, recognize your emotions are going to come in. Your mind is going to come in, right? Because it's trying to protect you and say, don't do that. It's hard. No, you're tired. Just stay in, right? Don't do that. Because it's something new. It's trying to keep you safe. So that includes your emotions. It's going to impact your emotions. And then finally, the habit stacking. Habit stacking is huge for making these neurological shortcuts in your brain to shortcut this long-standing tradition belief that you have in your brain. If you habit stack and you just do those habits one on top of the other, like you just create these small habits, or we talk about micro goals, but the habits are things that you do over and over and over again. And then they feel weird when you don't do them. So you want to make sure that you get your habit stacking in also to create those shortcuts. Okay, and then finally, we talked about practical steps to achieve your goals for New Year's resolutions. So number one, create micro goals. Look at the big goal, and then how can you make smaller goals out of the bigger goal? Number two, you want to have some sort of accountability system, somebody to keep you accountable would be ideal. And number three, you want to track your progress. That's going to increase your dopamine. It's going to be like, oh, look, you're doing it. All right, if you found value in this, please let me know in the comments. Again, subscribe. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything, but is the hugest gift to me and to the other people who are watching. So that way they know that this is bringing value to them. Go ahead and make comments. I see all the comments. I'll respond to all the comments. Also, if there is a topic that you want me to talk about, please put that topic in the comments and we'll talk about it next. But this has been amazing. Thank you so much for sticking around with me on another episode of The Other Side podcast. I'll see you next week. Take care, everyone.